Well, the Thunder take Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals over the Los Angeles Lakers, 108-90 the final score. This was a 16-point spread. The Thunder cover the spread, and a lot to, I think, digest from this game. I am Colby Daniels. That is Cameron Johnson. Special guest Josh Calloway alongside as we break down game number 1. Thunder now lead the Lakers 1-0. Great start from the Lakers out of the gate. And really, I thought LeBron really led the charge from that standpoint.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I mean, we were talking beforehand, this was my first game here, as evidenced by the pen. And we were just joking about, watch them come out and the Lakers just dominate. And for a second, it kind of looked like they obviously got off to the better start, but as we've seen throughout the series, OKC takes a minute to settle in maybe and then gets going. And ultimately, they did enough, but it was certainly a weird game for them tonight.
Yeah, it was a great start for the Lakers, like you said, Colby, and LeBron was obviously a huge part of that. I'm truly amazed he's still this good in his 40s now. He was spectacular, and he was really the one that kept the Lakers in it throughout the night, and we were kind of worried, what are those non-LeBron minutes going to look like? And they hurt him, but they came out, they threw the first punch. It was 7-0 Lakers right out of the gate, but OKC kind of settled in the game, shook off that rust after the layoff, and then kind of turned it on from there.
Yeah, it had been 8 days since the Thunder finished off the Phoenix Suns, and I thought in some capacity rust might be a factor. We'll get to some of the, I think, main areas where that was impacted, but they did fight through it. I think when I just look at this game as a whole, you got to find ways to win gritty games in the playoffs when you don't play your best basketball, right? And that's, I always think, no matter what the sport, when you can find ways to win gritty games when you're not playing your best, that's the mark of a champion. And I think if I have one thought from tonight, that's probably the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at coming into this series and playoffs as a whole, you look at a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and then you see what he's done all season long, and then you see what happens tonight, and you're like, well, that is not a stat line you're used to seeing. But then you see guys like Chet Holmgren stepping up and delivering really powerful offensive performances, and it's just not what you're used to seeing. But at the end of the day, the recipe created success, and it worked out.
Yeah, it feels silly, I guess. They won by 18. Thunder didn't really play well in this game for the most part. And obviously, I know we'll get in SGA more, but he didn't play well, obviously. Not even by his standard, just period. Didn't really play well, sloppy with the basketball. But they still, like you said, they found a way to win by 18 because of the depth. They have so many guys coming in waves, off the bench. They're able to absorb the Lakers' best shot, LeBron playing really well, and they were able to kind of overcome it because they're so fine around the edge and they're so deep. They have so many guys. And like you said, you have to be able to win when you're not just rolling. Mark Dagnall talked about that. The playoffs are just way too long. You're not going to just be playing perfect basketball all the time. That's unrealistic. And so for the Thunder to come out and kind of, be kind of rusty, kind of sloppy in some areas and still win by 18, I think that's a pretty encouraging sign.
I don't think SGA was horrible by any means. It might be the worst game that I've ever seen him play, though, and that's a testament to how great Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. Didn't hit the 20-point mark. Only 18 points tonight, 8 of 15 from the floor, had 7 turnovers. Seemed to be, I think, bothered by some of the double teams and that forced some turnovers. I thought he also showed some frustration with maybe not getting a whistle, especially early in the game. I thought he did a better job in the second half of maybe playing through some of that, but he seemed to be bothered by the non-whistle, if you will, in the first half. And, he said in the post-game press conference, rust is a part of it. When you're off for 8 days, finding your footing, that was a little bit of it. But, it wasn't horrible, but it was probably the worst I've ever seen him play in a Thunder uniform, which is pretty incredible. And you win a playoff game by 18 under those circumstances. That's, wow.
Well, the flip side of it, too, it's he did not have a good night as far as turnovers, his efficiency, but at the same time, I think he still had a game-high 6 assists, so he's still, like we talked about in the pregame show and leading into this game, he is really good at distributing the ball out and, kind of taking the stress off of himself, not so much for that intention there, but he's just really good at knowing how to handle it.
Yeah, no, uncharacteristically sloppy. 7 turnovers is a lot for him, especially. Obviously.
Average 2.2 during the regular season for what it's worth.
Yeah, almost quadruple your average. It's certainly notable. And like you said, he didn't only scored 18. He scored 20 literally every game all season, right? Yeah. Didn't hit a 3 in this game. He just seemed like he was kind of forced the issue a little bit early. Tried to get some fouls that he didn't get the call, and whenever that happens, it looks bad because he just throws up a crazy shot, expecting / hoping for a whistle that doesn't come. But, at the end of the day, the Lakers, that was kind of their game plan. And J.J. Redick is a good coach. Right. And that was a big question I had going into the series was like, who's going to guard SGA? I think J.J. Redick had the same thought because it wasn't just one guy. We thought maybe Marcus Smart, but it was a lot of doubles. But other guys stepped up and got the scoring done, and so they were able to overcome that. And you have to figure SGA is only going to the Warrior level is about 0%. Like, he's going to play much better. And the fact Thunder were able to win this game despite that, again, an encouraging thing.
Well, it's a little bit like the Sun series. Game 1, Shea wasn't terribly efficient in Game 1, and the Thunder absolutely dominated the Phoenix Suns. And what happened in Game 2, Shea was outstanding. Right?
And then he went to Phoenix and was nuts.
Yeah,
as well.
He was incredible those final 3 games. We'll get to Game 2, but I would just say, I anticipate that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be really, really good on Thursday night. Speaking of really, really good, though, Chet Holmgren was exceptional tonight. When Shai maybe didn't play his best game, there was a moment in this game early where I thought, it was kind of sneaky from Chet. I look at the stats and I'm like, wow, it doesn't necessarily feel like he's had that big of an impact. But as the game went on, it just seemed like most of the giant momentum type of plays were Chet Holmgren on both ends. He had a big block at one point, getting big rebounds, extending possessions, and certainly, he had several dunks that kind of lit this place on fire.
Yeah.
Just looking at the season, it feels like more often than not he has a double-double of some sort going. And obviously he had that and more today. I think he had 18 points in 15 minutes at one point, 18 of those all in the first half. And it was just he was dominant. And like you said, it was sneaky for a little bit. And then all of a sudden he's just on the end of every explosive play. And it's it felt like the Thunder should have been running away with it at points, which is another thing to get into. But, he was a big part of that.
Yeah, Chet, he's making a leap. He's moving. He's been an all-star. He's obviously already a perennially very good player. Was in the Defensive Player of the Year combo this year, but you're seeing him make that leap to legit superstar level player, and he's turning that corner. He had the injury last year, which was a setback. He talked about it post-game how last year at this time didn't have his legs under him really at all. He just come back for the playoffs, and this year he was healthy, and you can see the impact it's having. And that sequence, the block down here in the end behind us, and the alley-oop on this goal to our left, that was awesome. One of the best sequences of the night, and he's playing very well so far in these playoffs.
Yes.
He missed his entire rookie season. Last year, missed a good portion of it with that crazy hip injury. Was really finding his footing as they started the postseason, and they win a championship. Totally different player today than he was going into the second round series a year ago. And even with all that, I still sometimes, I guess because you know what his ceiling could be, and it's so high, I find myself feeling like I want to see more out of Chet, and you got to be somewhat patient with his development. But I think that's probably, again, because we all know if he's this right now, what can he be? Because he's still putting it all together. And again, they say at almost every press conference that they talk about Chet, he's the worst player that he's ever going to be today because he's only getting better and better day by day. But to have a player like that you really see the light kind of coming on, and I've used the word assertiveness at times, and you want to see him just assert himself because there's so many times that he has such an advantageous matchup, and sometimes I think it's not even asserting himself, it's just being more decisive in his actions, because sometimes I think it's just he's too slow and maybe processing what he needs to do, and it allows a defender to get the advantage. But I felt tonight he was just so decisive. Anytime he did anything, it felt like there was zero hesitation. And because of his size and length, when he is decisive and the defender doesn't have a chance to maybe make up ground, there's really no stopping him.
Yeah. It's really comforting, too, if you're a fan, to see that your best player is having a down night, but you've got arguably one of your second best top 3 players who's continuing to get closer and closer to that ceiling at the same time. And then you factor in that Jalen Williams is hopefully going to make a return in this series. And you figure that this is an uncharacteristic night for SGA. So I think if you're a fan, there's nothing about tonight that should really have you worried just yet. And Chet only gets better.
Yeah, I was just thinking, think about the juxtaposition of Game 1 of the second round last year, 365 days ago. Probably the worst moment of Chet's career, where he misses the free throw. Nuggets steal Game 1.
Aaron
You think
Gordon
a year
hits that
later,
shot.
and Chet's the best guy on the floor for a lot of this game against the Lakers to win a playoff game. You know, he's come a long way in a year. Not that he was bad last year by any means, but he's playing at a very high level right now. Best basketball of his career.
Yeah. Obviously, without J-Dub, that puts a tremendous amount of, I don't want to say stress because the guy is so calm, cool, and collected, but it puts a tremendous amount of weight as far as the job description on A.J. Mitchell, who's another guy like Chet. Like, he's only in his second year, missed most of last year, and just handles it almost flawlessly. You never see the guy look rattled, which is very rare for a player that is as young in his NBA career as AJ is. But, I mean, when you think about the postseason and the level of defense that you're playing and the amount of attention Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets to, and this was true of the last series as well, like to just come in, handle the basketball, run the offense, and not really ever feel or seem overwhelmed. And he wasn't perfect by any means. He missed a bunch of open threes. You know, there was I think in the fourth quarter of Game 4 against Phoenix, he had a bunch of turnovers. But, I mean, when you look at the grand scheme of everything he's being asked to do, he is passing that test with flying colors.
Yeah, and this evening, I mean, it took him a little bit to get settled in. He had 2 points in the first quarter, 6 in the second, and then all of a sudden he's just having this fantastic third quarter, 10 points. And it comes at a pivotal time whenever, you know, we talked about OKC feeling like they should be up by more, but then the Lakers would make a run. So you have to have guys like that step up and deliver in the heat of the moment to get this game ultimately where it ends up.
It's shocking that AJ's this good. You know, I mean, year two, hadn't played in the playoffs really at all before this year. And he steps right in the starting lineup with Jalen Williams out, and he was great. He was great. He missed a couple open threes, but then he gets the 4-point play in the corner in the second half.
Yes.
That was a huge moment in the second half of this game to help them continue to kind of try and pull away, create a little distance there. He's playing very, very well and is going to be, I think, a big part of this rotation for a long time.
The biggest advantage the Thunder have in this series, and really, I mean, I think you could say this about every series they could possibly play in the postseason against every opponent possible, depth, right? I mean, the Thunder's depth is a tremendous weapon. It was a tremendous weapon in the postseason run a year ago. Still a tremendous weapon. I mean, they brought everyone back and added pieces. When you look at Jared McCain, he hit some big shots tonight. I mean, A.J. Mitchell wasn't really a factor, so it almost feels like he's an addition from what last year's group was. But the depth obviously was on display tonight. Again, there were so many moments in this game where you felt like the Thunder were one play away from really breaking this thing open. You got to give the Lakers a lot of credit for doing just enough to keep their head above water, but ultimately, like, the depth was the difference maker, right? And you saw that in the fourth quarter when the Thunder's second unit guys are out there making a run, and the Lakers have their starters out there, and those guys looked a little tired, and you have fresh legs with your twos. Those guys are so good, and the depth just squeezes the life out of you. And again, it shows up later in games. That's when it's the most apparent. And then as a series goes on, it shows up later in the series. But the fourth quarter, I thought, was where you really started to see the depth pay off.
And I think it was a huge momentum booster for them to have the game that they did, you know, where it's not the prettiest to look at on paper or on film either, to end the way they did, get the wheels in motion. You know, that 4-point play by Mitchell really did feel like just they needed that. And so for them to end on that kind of note is going to be big for them going into game two.
Yeah, I mean, in a night where you don't have Jalen Williams, they still won the non-SGA minutes in this game, which is that's alarming if you're the Lakers, because you're saying, where does that leave us? Now, hopefully if you're LA, you're going to get Luka Doncic back at some point. But the Thunder obviously expect to get Jada back, presumably, potentially at some point. Maybe they don't need him if they can obviously continue to have a lead. We'll see how that shakes out the rest of the way. But, yeah, the depth is unbelievable. You mentioned Jared McCain, 4 threes.
Yeah.
He's like the Thunder's 10th best guy at best. Yeah. And he has 12 points. He scores more than Austin Reeves in this game, you know, I mean, who's obviously, without Luka, he's the Lakers' second guy after LeBron. And he didn't play well. And Jared McCain, again, who's, I think I counted up, at best their 10th. You could maybe talk me into lower. And I like Jared McCain, but that's just the depth of this team, and he was excellent. I mean, it's just where this roster is, Sam Presti. It's nuts. It's unbelievable.
Thunder bench outscored the Lakers bench 34-15 in this game again.
Yeah.
McCain hit some monster threes in the fourth quarter that kind of helped that run and helped that
really
separation.
Put it away. He had two in a row that really
put the game away. In terms of looking at the Lakers side of this and LeBron James, I mean, he was phenomenal at the start of this game. Looked like the LeBron of old. Obviously, he can't do that for 48 minutes. He can't do that for 4 quarters. Finished with a game-high 27. He had 16 at the half. In the second half, I thought he looked tired. He still had a couple of flash plays in the second half, but it definitely felt like the juice that was there in the first half was missing consistently throughout the second half.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you can't do that. He doesn't hold up for 4 quarters, and you can't have it all resting on the shoulders of one guy, especially, as we've mentioned, a guy who's old enough to play with his son. I mean, but it really was, it was impressive to watch for a little bit, but then to watch it slow down, like you said, is just a reflection of this matchup, I think. A team that gets tired versus a team that's going to only settle in more and expose your weaknesses. And yeah, I
mean, this is where too the fact that the Lakers were not able to put the Rockets away a little quicker starts to hurt them right in the next round. The playoffs are kind of one round can bleed into the next, and the fact that the Thunder swept the Suns, the Lakers ended up having to go to 6. And you've noted it earlier, like the schedule is unforgiving. It's every other day. They play again on Thursday, then Saturday. Like, there's not going to be time for LeBron and the rest of these guys to rest up, but especially LeBron, who's obviously in his 40s, right? I mean, it's going to be hard for him to continue to circle back and be the guy we saw early, because early he was awesome. He looked like vintage LeBron, but for him to continue to do that over 48 minutes against this team every other day, that's a big ask for the Lakers right now.
Before we talk Game 2, any other thoughts from tonight?
Yeah, we sound like a broken record. The depth, it's killer. To watch, ultimately, it's just repeating what we've already said, just how impressed I was to see a team that on its worst night still gets this done. It gives you a lot of hope that it does have the makings to make a very far run and possibly win it again.
Yeah, one more shout out, and we can do it every game, but Alex Caruso, just sicko, psycho. He's a maniac. He's so fun to watch. He had a fast break dunk where he then picked up the ball and he hit himself in the head with it a few times. He's a maniac, and he's so fun to watch. He's one of those guys that's that classic, like, he's good all the time, but the playoffs, it's just like it brings out the best in him, and he was huge in the playoff run last year, and he's been great, and he was awesome tonight as well.
There's no way to channel that like passion that he plays with in a regular season game. It's just it's not possible.
Yeah, and another guy too who it doesn't reflect on the score sheet maybe, but Jalen Williams seemed to be at the heart of a couple of big drives. I mean, the Lakers get out to that 7-0 start, and then all of a sudden he comes and knocks down. He's a part of just this big run that gets them back into it. He ties it up, and then all of a sudden they're on a 9-4 run to end the second quarter, turns into a 14-4 run, and that's where they looked like they were kind of figured out what they needed to do. So he was just a guy who maybe he didn't score all that much, but he played a big role in some key moments.
Also, Jared Vanderbilt's pinky, that was gross.
Ugh. Yeah,
that was gross.
That's a tough watch.
Just look at the Thunder's reaction on the bench.
T's and P's to Vanderbilt's pinky. To the point about Jay, Hart got in foul trouble early in this game. So just in terms of playing valuable minutes when Hartenstein was in foul trouble, and he drew two charges, I thought at like critical times. He's such a tremendous glue guy. And again, that's the value of having so many different pieces that you can utilize that all kind of bring something different to the table. And are just the sum of all the parts is what you get tonight. But a night that they don't play their best basketball game, they still beat the Lakers by 18. All right, expectations for Game 2.
I think we're going to see a much sharper and refined version of the Thunder than what we saw tonight. Like you said, I expect that Shea is going to come out, play loads better than what he did. And, I always say teams have a banana peel game, the one where you slip up. Yeah. And, originally I thought that this might be a series that makes it to 5 games, but after a night like tonight, this was close enough to a loss. I feel like in their minds and maybe fans' minds as well, that I think that we're going to see a much more dominant team that possibly looks at another sweep.
Yeah, I'd be worried if I was the Lakers, just because we talked about earlier, you threw the first punch and you played pretty well a lot of the night. And you still lose by 18. At no point did you ever think the Thunder were not going to win this game, which is a little frightening. You have to figure, hopefully, if you're the Lakers, that Austin Reeves plays a lot better. You're going to need him to. Without Luka, like we said, he has to be your number 2 guy. But also, SGA is going to play a lot better. You have to assume. So, if you're the Thunder, you're feeling pretty good about where things stand because you didn't have your fastball tonight and you still won pretty comfortably. Lakers, I mean, I don't know. JJ Redick was a good coach, trying to make some adjustments, but the fact that they were able to bother SGA, LeBron played so well, they got off to a good start, and you still lose big. So it's alarming, I think, for the Lakers.
I don't know what the answer is. I'm sure JJ Redick doesn't know what the answer is. But again, Shea wasn't horrible, but it's probably the worst I've ever seen him play in this building. And you still get a playoff win by 18 points.
Yep.
And the Thunder were 16-point favorites.
I should have mentioned earlier, I forgot, amazing stat is that the last time Shea didn't score 20 was the Game 3 loss to the Timberwolves last year. They lost that game by 43 points. Yeah. And they won today by 18. I mean, it just goes to show, like, the depth is
the growth.
Kind of what we're saying. Like, that's a game that Lakers probably need to try and win. And they not only didn't win, they got beat comfortably.
Yeah. Right? I believe tonight has to be a deflating loss for the Lakers.
Yeah.
I'm sure they will rally and bring it on Thursday night. But again, this one would be tough to recover from when you look at what you're able to do with Shea and how well you played early, and it's still just and they're gonna believe that they can do a lot of things better as well. I don't discount that,
for sure.
but you got to believe the Thunder are going to make those adjustments also, and it's just such a disadvantage, I think, on paper. The Lakers and Thunder that I don't know how they overcome it. Yeah. All right, we'll do it again on Thursday, and we'll get out of here. They're sweeping this place up, and they may shut the lights off on us. But
already tried.
That's it for us. Thunder win 108-90. Take Game 1 of this Western Conference semifinal series. Game 2 is Thursday night, 8:30 tip from the Paycom Center. That is Josh Calloway and Cameron Johnson. I'm Colby Daniels. Everybody enjoy the day off before Game 2 Thursday night.